Hello and welcome to the Property TV Buyer's Guide to Florida. Now, the Sunshine State has been luring millions of British visitors in greater numbers year on year since the 1970s. Attractive exchange rates and cut-price airfares have made this an incredibly popular holiday destination. And it's no surprise that many of those holidaymakers decide to go a step further and either move to Florida permanently or at least buy a property as a second home with a sideline in holiday rentals. In fact, the incredible level of demand has spawned an entire industry that makes its living from selling Florida property to the Brits. And unfortunately, the quality of advice and information given to buyers isn't always what it could be, and often the outcome leaves people with a slightly bitter taste in their mouth. Now, the main culprit here is the misconception that because there are so many similarities between our countries and the language that we speak, that it's therefore safe to assume that the systems for buying property, the appropriate laws and customs that apply, will all be the same too. And of course, this is far from the truth. There are many potential pitfalls for the unsuspecting British buyer. So today we plan to simplify some of the complications that you may encounter and give you some useful tips to help your overseas adventure be as successful and stress-free as possible. Now, first things first, you need to decide whether you're buying a holiday home, a buy-to-let, or planning to move permanently, as this will affect the type of property that you look for. Now, when buying a holiday home, for instance, people usually make tremendously subjective choices, and they look for the same factors as they did when they got their primary home. This may be a comfortable space, good local amenities, nearby activities they enjoy, healthcare, and maybe even schools. Sometimes, though, it is the complete opposite of the primary home. People who live in an apartment want to buy a house with a garden, or people who own a spacious townhouse at home might just want to go for a small studio flat which is close to the beach, or a tiny village house set in a romantic location. Once that's all decided, the next thing to do is to circle your location on a map and try to narrow down the whole state into maybe one or two different regions. Too many British buyers are bowled over by the fact that Florida is so beautiful and the sun always seems to be shining, and they then forget about things like schools, shops, and other amenities. And this may not be important to you if you don't have children or are considering the location as a holiday home, but it might well have a major impact on the resale value if you later try to sell the property to a local family. Now, Florida is the state where it really is hard to buy a house not close to the beach. The land of flowers, as the Spanish called the area, is truly a paradise state. Sunny days can be spent in a truly subtropical climate where flourishing flora and fauna coexist with the most modern amusement facilities, theme parks, luxurious hotels, science centres, water sports resorts and natural parks, and some amazing beaches. There really is something for everyone. But there are, however, two things that Florida cannot offer to visitors, and that's skiing in the mountains and real solitude, as it is the hottest and the most populous state in the US. Now, before we go any further, let's take a look at this.
Remember, be sure to visit property-tv.co.uk/Florida to download your free buying guide and independent resource to help anyone looking to buy in or move to Florida.
Now, the Sunshine State is bordered by two seas. You've got the Gulf of Mexico on its western side and the Atlantic Ocean on the eastern side. The Gulf water is a bit warmer than the ocean, but there's not really much in it. And either way round, the maximum width of the peninsula is about 200 kilometres, so wherever you do choose, you can always pop over to the other side to kind of switch things up. Fundamental locations in this large state, which covers over 53,000 square miles, include Orlando, Miami, Sarasota, Naples, Jacksonville and Amelia Island. Now, most British buyers flock to Central Florida near Orlando, and they want to be close to the theme parks of Walt Disney World, SeaWorld, Orlando, Disney, MGM, and of course the Universal Studios and the Epcot Center. Few people, though, actually buy in the city of Orlando itself, preferring to live in one of the housing estates outside Orlando that make up one of the world's largest holiday communities. Now, most British buyers flock to Central Florida near Orlando, close to the theme parks of Walt Disney World, SeaWorld, Orlando, Disney, MGM, the Universal Studios, and of course the Epcot Center. Few people, though, actually buy in the city of Orlando itself, preferring instead to live in one of the housing estates outside Orlando that make up one of the world's largest holiday communities. Year-round sun, plentiful flights, and a massive amount really do catapult Orlando to the #1 spot for British property buyers. Many like the mix of holiday home and investment, using their overseas purchase for vacations and then renting it out the rest of the time to cover their running costs. But do be aware of optimistic rental yield promises when it comes to short-term rentals in the Disney area. Breaking even might be a more realistic goal rather than a regular income. The nearest beaches to the popular Orlando area are found on the East Coast around Daytona, Flagler Beach, and also the so-called Space Coast around Cape Canaveral Space Station. Property not too far from the beach can be very affordable in all these areas, especially when compared with Miami, which is further down in the south, or some of the Gulf Coast hotspots. Now, a great tip here is Jacksonville in North Florida. It's about 25 miles south of the Georgian border and about 340 miles north of Miami. Property bargain hunters are realizing the potential of affluent Jacksonville because it's one of the fastest growing American regions with a major deep sea port, US Navy bases, banking, insurance, healthcare, education, and logistics sectors. A typical model here is to invest in a home that can be let full-time to skilled workers in the area, or to use it for about 6 weeks of the year and rent it out the rest of the time. Another good location, also on the East Coast, is Amelia Island, a lovely seaport community. One of the main attractions here is the combination of Floridan palm trees and simmering beaches, with 4 seasons normally associated with Blighty. Now, there's a little bit of everything here on this small island, measuring only around 2.5 by 13 miles, from history, the intercoastal river, theatres, restaurants, golf, fishing, and most of all, a really good sense of community. The Miami area, including West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale, is very different to the Northeast coast. It's always popular, and therefore it's a fiercely competitive market with much higher prices. Over on the west coast, Naples, with its sun-drenched white sandy beaches on the Gulf of Mexico, offers great shopping, restaurants and golf courses, and is popular with retirees and families. Once a small fishing village, Naples boasts the calmest seas and the best beaches in these parts, and it comes with good shops, restaurants, golf courses, boating and fishing, and it's also close to the untamed wilderness of the Everglades, which is ideal for days out.
Remember, be sure to visit property-tv.co.uk/Florida to download your free buying guide and independent resource to help anyone looking to buy in or move to Florida.
Appearing in any number of top 10 lists, such as the 10 best undervalued places to live, the 10 best American beaches ranked in the National Geographic Travel magazine, and the top 10 healthiest hometowns in the USA, it's also one of the wealthiest cities in the US, with the 6th highest per capita income in America. And again, this unsurprisingly does affect the price tag on the housing, but that will have a knock-on effect on good rental yields. Now, Tampa is only 1.5 hours southwest of Orlando and the business hub of the Gulf Coast. So if you like urban vibrancy or a location that's great for year-round business rentals, then maybe you should consider the Tampa Bay area. For a more laid-back holiday ambience, try Clearwater, a suburb from which you can commute into the city. 50 miles south of Tampa is the Gulf town of Sarasota. Scottish family set sail in the mid-1800s to this once sleepy fishing village in search of fresh air, citrus groves and affordable housing. And in fact, Scottish lawyer John Hamilton Gillespie built America's first golf course and the DeSoto Hotel here, as well as becoming Sarasota's first ever mayor. Today it's home to the US #1 beach, Siesta Key, and one of the top 10 American high schools. There's something for everyone in Sarasota, from private and 40 pay as you play public golf courses, to beaches, walking trails and lectures from the likes of Tony Blair, Bill Clinton. Equally, there's also housing to suit almost every wallet. Now, once you've decided on your location, you'll need to ask yourself some very simple questions which should help you clarify where you are and what exactly you're looking for. Now, location-wise, am I looking at a countryside town, city or coast? Do I want a touristy or a residential area? Should the property be old or new? How many bedrooms or bathrooms do I want? Does the property need a terrace, a garden or a swimming pool? Will this property be a holiday home that you rent out? How far from the airport is the property? And are there good public transport links? Now, besides these basic pointers, you do also need to decide on your final budget. And don't forget that the selling price is only one part of this figure, alongside taxes, commissions, and of course those certain unexpected expenses. Checking expats forums on the internet or travel blogs as well as the official websites is a good tip, as they might offer some useful insider information about the areas that you're looking at. After the break, we'll be looking at the buying process and at financial planning, so don't go away. Welcome back to the Buyer's Guide to Florida. Before the break, we looked at why Florida is such a popular destination and just how attractive its various locations can be. Now, at this stage, it's important that you should also be prepared to be surprised by the sheer number of different people who are likely to be involved in buying a property in Florida. From start to finish, you will be employing the services of a whole range of different agents and brokers, each of whom seems to have one very specific role to play in the process. Fortunately, you won't have to pay them all, as commissions paid by the seller fund at least some of them. Now, in Florida and across the US, property agents are called realtors, and their practice is different than in the UK. A realtor has to have the license to buy and sell property, which means that they need to maintain a certain standard and that they're paid directly by the seller. Although there is no language barrier with the US legal affairs, you must bear in mind that the US is still a foreign country with different rules, a different currency and different taxation, so you must have a trusted realtor in the first place. Never ever make the mistake of assuming something will work in a certain way because that's how it would happen in the UK, and never assume that anyone will highlight the differences for you. Now, one big difference that is often the first surprise for British buyers is the business of finding properties to look at. In Florida, you don't have to trudge around dozens of estate agents, as virtually every single property is listed on a central database system that's available to all real estate agents or realtors. Now, agents tend to work as sellers agents or buyers agents, and you should recruit the services of a buyer's agent who has good experience working with British buyers. Be aware that most agents are self-employed and there's a fierce hierarchical seniority within the offices they work out of. So don't walk in off the street and sign up with an agent there, as you'll probably be dealing with a fairly junior agent who has to serve their time handling what are usually only casual inquiries. Now, of course, you may strike it lucky, but in most cases, this will not be the best person to act as your guide through the Florida property system. So do your research before you seek out specialized agents who understand your situation. Now, the real beauty of a buyer's agent is that you don't have to pay them. The system works by having the seller pay their agent a commission for selling the property, and the seller's agent shares that commission with the buyer's agent. Now, don't buy from a seller's agent, as they have absolutely no loyalty or legal responsibility towards you, and they won't act in your best interests. Recruit a specific buyer's agent who has a legal responsibility to advise you professionally. This will save you a fortune and doesn't cost you a penny. Also, avoid buying direct from a developer. Not only does the agent on a new development have loyalty only to the developer, they're only selling one set of property, and so they won't give you any useful guidance concerning the value for the money that you're getting or the market values.
Remember, be sure to visit property-tv.co.uk/Florida to download your free buying guide and independent resource to help anyone looking to buy in or move to Florida.
Now, something that catches out a few British buyers every year is the critical importance of date milestones in the process. And this is especially the case in a fast rising market where the value of property continues to increase during the closing process. This motivates sometimes sellers to look for a way to get out of the contract and sell at a new, higher price. So if the contract says you have a certain document in place by a certain date, you must get it done on time or risk not only losing the property, but also a deposit that you've already paid. Now, as a rule of thumb, in general, 3 to 6% should be calculated of the cost of the property for all the fees. Taxes can vary, and there are federal and local taxes as well, but this percentage is still realistic. The fees are called closing costs and refer to the administration for the down payment or any loans, the inspection fee, the stamp duty, the financial insurances, the legal fees and the survey. And one of the taxes you may have to pay will be a new concept to the Brits, and that's the US Homeowners Association fee. Now, the HOA is actually a corporation funded by the real estate developer, and its fee covers the marketing, managing and selling costs. Now, it mainly only affects new builds, but your realtor will provide all the specific information on it. Now, interestingly, in the US, buying in cash is actually cheaper and as popular as taking out a mortgage. Besides cash though, you can choose from a numerous number of American financial products to help you buy your property. They all do tend to ask for around a 20% down payment, especially from non-US residents, and all of the usual documents like proof of income and identity and information about your bank account and credit history. As with the UK, interest rates are currently very low, so it is worth considering a loan, but the most secure way to do it is with the assistance from a US mortgage broker. Financial planning must be in the hands of an expert, but you can contemplate on some key points prior to the bank meeting. Now, on this point, it is really important not to forget the fluctuating nature of the currencies exchange market. Currency is a living, breathing organism and is constantly changing, and you might pay more in the evening than you would have done in the morning, and then when you're dealing with amounts of around $100,000 upwards, little fluctuations can add up to a significant amount. Now, there are two main ways to ensure you use the exchange market to your benefit. Many currency specialist agencies have a service called forward contract, which means that you can fix an exchange rate today but actually purchase it later. Or you can pre-fund a local account overseas by making transfers prior to the purchase to maybe a client account abroad. This means that when you find your dream house, you won't waste time on waiting for a transfer from your UK bank account because you've already set up and pre-funded your local account.
Remember, be sure to visit property-tv.co.uk/Florida to download your free buying guide and independent resource to help anyone looking to buy in or move to Florida.
So, you've done your maths, you've chosen your property type and the right spot, and now it's time to take a viewing trip. Now, a viewing trip will help you get to know your area more and give you a chance to speak with the locals. Do things like buying groceries and learning to compare prices. It is more interesting if you go there after the tourist season because you can have a better look on the local life and traditions. And it's even better if you're in a position to rent somewhere for 3 to 6 months to get a real picture of the area. After your viewing trip, you'll hopefully have found and secured your dream property, and then you can embark on the next stage of your overseas adventure. Well, I hope that's cleared the waters and helped in some way. But remember, if you are in any doubt, don't hesitate to contact us here at Property TV. Good luck and happy house hunting.